So lately, as I've continued to churn out list-style videos for games of different time periods or different genres, or even to suit different moods if we're talking about chill stuff, it's kind of crazy to me just how much of my personal gaming time is still getting chewed up by the Steam Deck. Now, on some level, of course, I have to keep playing the Steam Deck to keep making videos on the channel, since that's primarily what I cover here. However, more and more, despite the fact that I do have access to the PS5 and the Series X, I still do tend to turn to the Steam Deck a lot for my personal gaming time where I'm just trying to enjoy a game and not necessarily playing with an eye towards making content. So does the Steam Deck completely displace my desire to play games on the PS5, Series X, or Nintendo Switch? Definitely not. However, one of the things that I hadn't considered was how the Steam Deck stacks up against full-blown gaming PCs that I've had through the years. And I've had a few, whether those were just, pre-built machines that I bought from some big box retailer, or machines that I had actually cobbled together myself. And today I just wanted to explore a little bit how it stacks up, not technically speaking, but rather just personally speaking in terms of my enjoyment of actually using the Steam Deck versus the same level of enjoyment that I got from playing a full-blown gaming PC. So again, with all of this in mind, what I wanted to do today was talk about a few reasons that the Steam Deck isn't just chewing into my console gaming time, but that even pitted against gaming PCs that are arguably much more powerful than the Steam Deck is, why it would still be my go-to, and I'm pretty sure it's my favorite gaming PC of all time at this point. And I think one of the first reasons that I really enjoy using the Steam Deck over previous gaming PCs that I had is that I don't have to mess with Windows. Now let me expand on that before anybody breaks out the pitchforks or anything, because I do not inherently hate Windows. Even as a predominantly Mac guy, I still have a lot of love for Windows and see it has a ton of utility in areas like business and enterprise, and as far as gaming goes, it's pretty much the standard, and I get that. But as somebody who works in the Windows world all day for my day job, and somebody who has been a Windows user ever since the days of Windows 3.1, if I'm being honest, I tend to have more frustrating memories with Windows than I do good ones. Even when I was tinkering with Windows for the purposes of building out a gaming PC, I never much relished the thought of installing the operating system clean and then hunting down drivers for each of the individual components, or doing periodic rebuilds whenever my system would inevitably slow over time. Now granted, Windows in the modern age is a lot more stable than it used to be, but again, given decades of frustration using the operating system and the fact that I spend all day working in it, really does make it the last thing that I want to look at whenever I'm ready to settle in for some gaming for myself, playing Chorus or whatever amazing new game you've happened to recommend this week. Thankfully, the deck runs a modified Arch Linux flavor known as Steam OS, and while it's true that Linux can be way more convoluted and difficult to deal with than Windows sometimes, properly configured as it is on the Steam Deck, it can also provide a very encapsulated, very stable experience. And while it won't play as many games as Windows does, as of the recording of this video, over 7,000 titles are supported, so I don't imagine I'll have a shortage of things to play on the deck anytime soon. And thankfully, there's not a whole lot of tinkering that you have to do with it either, unless you're on a mission to play unsupported games or just really get granular about how you get your emulators to operate. Which kind of brings me to my next point, and that is that the Steam Deck is hands down my favorite emulation machine of all time. Now, I've always had a little bit of a love-hate relationship with emulation. On the one hand, who could deny the utility? Emulation allows you to play games that are way out of print from studios that no longer exist. It does the heavy lifting of game preservation when studios that do still exist fail to preserve their own titles. And the efficiency of a folder full of files is hard to argue against shelves or sometimes rooms full of discs and cartridges. But on the other hand, there are drawbacks. I mean, emulation isn't always perfect, the legalities of indulging it are questionable sometimes, and you'll usually have to do a little, if not a lot, of tinkering to make sure that you get everything working the way that you want it to, especially if you're doing each system individually. Plus, speaking personally, there are some emulation scenarios that just never really felt right to me. For instance, playing Super Mario Bros. 3 on a Windows laptop using a Bluetooth-connected DualShock 4 controller just feels wrong. I mean, technically functional, sure, but just feels wrong. But again, the Steam Deck solves at least a couple of these problems for me. Thanks to tools like EmuDeck, you can get up and running with a range of emulators that are already configured to go in just a few minutes. Sure, you might still have to hunt down BIOS files for a couple of systems to work properly, although that's something you would have to do in a traditional PC experience as well. Plus, when all's said and done, you can play something like 6 or 7 distinct console generations on a device that actually feels like a gaming device in your hands. Now, does it fully bridge that gap and finally make every conceivable aspect of the emulation experience perfect? No, it doesn't. However, I would argue that it gets closer than most, and the fact that I can jump from something as modern as Days Gone to something like Super Baseball 2020 in just a few taps and a fairly seamless transition is pretty great. But beyond software considerations, the Steam Deck also gets a big boost over previous gaming PCs I've had in the hardware department as well. And that's really for a couple of key reasons. The first is that comparatively the Steam Deck is way cheaper than any gaming rig that I've had in the past, whether I bought a PC off the shelf or just cobbled it together myself after shopping around at Newegg. I'm positive I've never built a gaming PC for under $1,000. And while the deck's not beefy enough to be churning out 4K ray traced visuals for the latest bleeding edge titles or anything, it's still more than capable of handling just about anything from 2020 or earlier with pretty stellar results. Secondly, while it does have PC-style flexibility in terms of what you can do with it, I'm never really going to have to sweat which graphics card to upgrade for it, and the most hardware maintenance I'll ever have to do is hopefully limited to like swapping out the sticks if they start to fail on me. Maybe I'll have to swap out the SSD someday, but honestly I'm guessing that a newer iteration of the deck will be released way before I'll ever have to worry about doing that level of surgery. But hey, even if I do have to do some component replacement for the Steam Deck someday, it's nice to know that Valve at least supports this and has means available to get replacement parts and also provides tutorial videos if I ever have to crack the system open. Admittedly, it will not be as easy as popping open a PC tower, but the odds of me needing to pop it open to make hardware upgrades or repairs is a lot slimmer by nature of the fact that, again, we're talking about a PC that's been squished down into the handheld form factor. And speaking of PCs being squished down into a handheld form factor, the final reason that I think the Steam Deck is my favorite gaming PC ever is because it's been so successful. Now I realize that sounds a little bit like a cop-out answer, but there are a few reasons that it makes me really happy as a consumer that the Steam Deck's doing well in the marketplace. For starters, because it's been so successful, it's also really well supported by Valve, and the odds of a Steam Deck 2 go up tremendously considering it's already sold over 1 million units in its first year. Now it's not exactly doing Nintendo Switch numbers, but 1 million plus is nothing to scoff at. And considering the exponential increase in revenue I'm sure Valve's enjoyed from all of those deck owners very likely buying multiple games from its marketplace, there's every reason to continue refining the operating system and explore what the next Steam Deck will actually look like. And because of that success, we continue to see more and more competitors popping up. And that's really great for consumers because it expands the amount of choice we have to explore PC gaming in devices with this form factor, which, again, speaking personally, is my preferred way of playing PC games on the go over something like, say, a gaming laptop. Plus, as competing units continue to try to outmaneuver the Steam Deck in terms of price or features, I'm sure that Valve will respond in kind and continue to put out better and better offerings in the interest of keeping people hanging out in their ecosystem. All of this is great for PC gaming fans who may have loved the Nintendo Switch for what it had to offer, but really wish they had something that was more powerful, flexible, and ultimately capable of playing all of the games from their existing PC libraries. So I guess to kind of wrap this whole thing up, I would say a combination of the way the hardware and software operates together, coupled with the fact that Valve has been tremendous about making sure that it supports the deck in a very, very big way to keep its players happy, has made the Steam Deck maybe not my favorite gaming device period of all time, but definitely my favorite gaming PC of all time. It just hits that perfect sweet spot between the openness of PC architecture with most of the convenience of the tightly controlled user experience that you get from consoles, and in turn I would say it really created a whole new class of gaming PCs in the process. But hey, as with most of these videos, this is just one guy's opinion. What do you think about the Steam Deck? Does it take the top spot in terms of your favorite gaming PC of all time? Or is it one of those things where it's maybe a nice companion to your existing gaming rig, but it would be complete blasphemy for you to ever say, yes, it's my favorite gaming PC ever? Let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear your thoughts on it. As always, thank you for taking the time to watch videos on this channel. Have an amazing day, and I'll see you on the next one.